The alarm clock screamed at 6 a.m., but Zara was already awake. She'd been staring at the ceiling for the past hour, her stomach doing backflips. Today was the day she'd been dreading for weeks. First day at a new school. Again. She rolled out of bed and walked to the window, pulling back the curtains to look at the quiet suburban street. Everything here was so different from her old neighborhood in Chicago. The houses were bigger, the lawns were perfectly trimmed, and there wasn't a single person walking around. Back home, people were always outside, kids playing in the streets, neighbors chatting on their porches. This place felt like a movie set. Her mom's voice echoed from downstairs. "Zara, breakfast is ready." She grabbed her phone and checked her messages. Her best friend Keisha had sent her a good luck text with 3 heart emojis. Her cousins from back home had created a group chat called "We Miss You Already" and were sending funny memes to cheer her up. At least some things never changed. After throwing on her favorite jeans and a simple black hoodie, Zara made her way downstairs. Her mom was already dressed in her new work uniform, looking as nervous as Zara felt. Her dad sat at the kitchen table in his military fatigues, reading something on his tablet while sipping coffee. "You ready for this, kiddo?" her dad asked, looking up with that encouraging smile he always gave her before big moments. "As ready as I'll ever be," Zara replied, grabbing a piece of toast and spreading peanut butter on it. Her appetite had completely disappeared, but she knew she needed to eat something. Her mom walked over and started fussing with Zara's hair. "Your braids look beautiful, honey. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." That comment made Zara's stomach tighten even more. Her parents had already given her the talk about what to expect at this new school. How she might be one of the few black students. How some people might say things or ask questions that would make her uncomfortable. How she should always remember who she was and where she came from. The drive to school felt like it took forever and no time at all. Her mom kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, making small talk about the weather, and pointing out different shops they passed. But Zara could tell she was worried too. Lincoln Valley High School looked exactly like the schools in movies. Big brick building, perfectly manicured lawn, students walking around in groups laughing and chatting. Her mom pulled up to the front entrance and turned around in her seat. "Remember what we talked about. If anyone gives you trouble, you call me immediately. And your dad's office number is in your phone too." "Mom, I'll be fine. I've done this before, remember?" But this felt different. At her old school in Chicago, there were kids from everywhere. Different races, different backgrounds, different stories. Here, as she looked around, she noticed something that made her heart sink a little. Almost every face she saw was white. She hugged her mom goodbye and stepped out of the car. The morning air was crisp, and she could hear the sounds of typical high school chaos. Car doors slamming, friends calling out to each other, the distant sound of music from someone's car stereo. Walking through the front doors, Zara immediately felt the stares. It wasn't anything new, but it still made her skin crawl. Some kids looked curious, others seemed indifferent, but a few had that look she recognized. The look that said she didn't belong here. Her first stop was the main office to get her schedule and locker combination. The secretary, Mrs. Henderson, was incredibly nice and walked her through everything she needed to know. She even offered to have a student show her around, but Zara politely declined. She preferred to figure things out on her own. Finding her locker turned out to be an adventure. The school was huge, with 3 different floors and hallways that seemed to go on forever. She finally found locker 247 on the 2nd floor, squeezed between 2 other lockers that already had personal decorations and photos taped inside. As she worked on getting her combination right, she could hear conversations happening around her. Most kids were talking about typical teenage stuff. Weekend plans, homework they forgot to do, drama between friends, normal high school things that made her feel a little better. Her first class was American history with Mr. Rodriguez. She walked, and just as the bell rang, and 25 pairs of eyes turned to look at her. The teacher smiled warmly and pointed to an empty desk in the 3rd row. "Class, we have a new student joining us today. Zara, would you like to introduce yourself?" Standing up in front of a room full of strangers was never fun, but Zara had gotten used to it. Hi everyone, I'm Zara. My family just moved here from Chicago because of my dad's job. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all. A few students smiled and said hi. Others just stared. One boy in the back row whispered something to his friend, and they both laughed. Zara pretended not to notice and took her seat. The morning. Classes went by pretty normally. Math was math, no matter where you were. English seemed interesting, and the teacher assigned her a book she'd already read at her old school, which was a relief. Science was going to be challenging because they were covering different material than what she'd learned in Chicago. But it was during her fourth period study hall that things got interesting. She was sitting alone at a table in the library, working on catching up with her new assignments when she overheard a conversation at the table behind her. Did you see the new girl? She's in my history class. Yeah, I heard she's from Chicago. Inner city, probably. Her hair is so different. Is that even real? I don't know, but it looks weird. Why would anyone want their hair to look like that? Zara's pencil stopped moving across her paper. She'd heard comments like this before, but it still stung every single time. She wanted to turn around and say something, but she also didn't want to cause drama on her first day. Instead, she put in her earbuds and turned up her music. Her playlist was full of songs that made her feel strong and confident, songs that reminded her of home and the people who loved her exactly as she was. Lunchtime was the part of the day she'd been dreading most. Walking into a cafeteria full of established friend groups when you're the new kid is hard enough. Being the new kid who stands out is even harder. She bought her lunch and looked around the large cafeteria, trying to figure out where to sit. There were the typical high school groups, the athletes all sitting together at one long table, the theater kids in the corner gesturing wildly as they talked, the academic types sitting quietly and actually doing homework while they ate. Finally, she spotted an empty table near the windows and decided that would be her spot. As she walked across the cafeteria, she could feel people watching her. Some were probably just curious about the new student, but others had looks that made her uncomfortable. She sat down and pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages from her friends back home. They were all asking how her first day was going, and she wasn't sure what to tell them yet. Is this seat taken? Zara looked up to see a girl with short blonde hair and a friendly smile standing next to her table. No, go ahead, Zara replied, grateful that someone was being nice to her. I'm Riley. I saw you in Mr. Rodriguez's class this morning. How's your first day going so far? It's been okay. Still trying to figure everything out. Riley seemed genuinely nice, and they chatted about teachers, classes, and what there was to do around town. For the first time all day, Zara started to relax a little bit, but as they were talking, she noticed 3 students at a table across the cafeteria staring at her and whispering. When they saw her looking, they didn't look away. Instead, one of them, a girl with long brown hair, smirked and said something that made the other 2 laugh. Zara had a feeling her peaceful first day was about to get a lot more complicated. Riley was in the middle of telling Zara about the upcoming homecoming dance when 3 students approached their table. Zara had noticed them staring from across the cafeteria, and now they were walking straight toward her with confident smiles. That didn't reach their eyes. The girl leading the group had perfectly straightened blonde hair and wore a Letterman jacket that probably belonged to her boyfriend. Behind her walked a tall boy with messy brown hair and expensive sneakers, and another girl with red highlights who looked like she spent hours getting ready every morning. Hey there, the blonde girl said, her voice sweet but somehow sharp at the same time. You're the new girl, right? I'm Brittany. This is Chase and Megan. Riley suddenly got very quiet and started packing up her lunch. I should probably get to class early, she mumbled, avoiding eye contact with the 3 newcomers. Actually, Riley, why don't you stay? Brittany said, but it sounded more like a command than a suggestion. Riley froze in her seat. Zara could feel the energy at the table shift completely. Whatever was about to happen, she had a feeling it wasn't going to be friendly, but she kept her expression calm and looked up at Brittany. Yeah, I'm Zara. Nice to meet you. Zara, Brittany repeated, like she was testing how the name sounded. That's interesting. Where exactly are you from? Chicago, Zara replied simply, taking a bite of her sandwich. Chicago, Chase jumped in, grinning. That explains a lot. Big city girl, huh? There was something in the way he said big city that made Zara's stomach tighten. She'd heard that tone before. It was the same tone people used when they wanted to say something else but were trying to be subtle about it. Megan slid into the seat across from Zara without being invited. I love your hair, she said, but her eyes were studying Zara's braids, like they were some kind of science experiment. It must take forever to do all that. Is it real? The question hit Zara like a slap. She'd been asked this question more times than she could count, and it never got easier to hear. There was always something behind it, some assumption about her that people were making. Yes, it's real, Zara said evenly. It's called protective styling. Protective styling, Brittany repeated with a little laugh. Protecting it from what? Before Zara could answer, Chase leaned forward on the table. I've always wondered about that, like why don't you just wear your hair normal? The word normal hung in the air like a cloud of smoke. Zara felt her jaw clench slightly, but she kept her voice calm. This is normal for me. Right, but I mean like... Megan gestured vaguely at her own straight red hair. You know, regular hair? Doesn't all that stuff in your hair get heavy? Riley was staring down at her lunch tray, clearly uncomfortable but not saying anything. A few other students at nearby tables had started to notice the conversation and were listening in. My hair is fine the way it is, Zara said, her voice a little firmer now. Oh, don't get defensive, Brittany said with a fake laugh. We're just curious. I mean, you have to admit it's pretty different from what we're used to seeing around here. Different isn't bad, Zara replied. Of course not, Chase said quickly. We're totally cool with diversity and all that. It's just interesting, you know? Like, where you come from, do all the girls do their hair like that? The way he said, where you come from, made it clear he wasn't talking about Chicago specifically. Zara could feel her patience starting to wear thin, but she also knew she was being tested. These three had probably planned this whole conversation before walking over. Girls everywhere do their hair in lots of different ways, she said simply. Megan reached across the table suddenly, her hand moving toward Zara's braids. Can I touch it? I've never felt hair like that before. Zara pulled back quickly. Please don't touch my hair. Oh, come on, Megan said with a pouty expression. I'm just curious. It won't hurt anything. I said no. Zara's voice was firm but not loud. Brittany jumped back into the conversation. She's just trying to be friendly, Zara. No need to be so aggressive about it. The word aggressive hit like another slap. Zara had been called aggressive before, usually when she stood up for herself or simply said no to something. It was a word that seemed to follow her around, no matter how calm or polite she tried to be. I'm not being aggressive. I just don't want people touching my hair without permission. See? That's the thing, though, Chase said, leaning back in his chair. Here at Lincoln Valley, we're all pretty friendly with each other. We don't really do the whole territorial thing. More students were definitely watching now. Conversations at other tables had gotten quieter, and Zara could feel dozens of eyes on her. She glanced around quickly and noticed that several people had their phones out, though she couldn't tell if they were recording or just scrolling through social media. I'm not being territorial, Zara said. I just have boundaries. Boundaries, Brittany repeated with another one of those fake laughs. That's a very Chicago attitude, I guess. Riley finally spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe we should all just finish eating. Actually, Riley, I think Zara can speak for herself, Megan said without looking away from Zara. Can't you, Zara? It was clearly a challenge. Zara could feel the tension building at the table, and she knew that whatever she said next was going to matter. But before she could respond, Chase jumped in again. You know what I find interesting? How different things must be where you're from. Like, the schools and neighborhoods and people. People are people everywhere, Zara said. Right, but you have to admit there are cultural differences. Brittany's smile was getting sharper. I mean, the way people talk, the way they dress, the way they handle conflict. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing bad, Chase said quickly. Just that city people, especially from places like Chicago, tend to be more intense about things. More quick to get upset, Megan added. More likely to cause drama. Brittany finished. Zara could feel her heart starting to beat faster. They were pushing her, trying to get a reaction. And the worst part was that other students were watching, waiting to see what would happen. I'm not trying to cause any drama, Zara said carefully. I just want to eat my lunch and get to know people. And we want to get to know you too, Brittany said. That's why we came over here. But you seem a little defensive, like you're expecting us to be mean to you or something. Maybe that's just how things work where she's from, Chase said with a shrug. Always ready for a fight. I'm not ready for a fight, Zara said, but she could hear the edge creeping into her own voice. See? Megan pointed at her. You're getting upset over nothing. We're just trying to have a conversation. Riley was gathering her things again, clearly wanting to escape the situation. But before she could leave, Brittany turned to her. Riley, you've been quiet. What do you think about our new classmate here? Riley looked terrified. I think she seems nice. Nice, Brittany repeated. That's good. We like nice people here at Lincoln Valley. People who fit in. People who don't make waves. The message was clear, even though she hadn't said it directly. Zara felt something cold settle in her stomach. This wasn't just casual curiosity or awkward questions. This was intentional. These three had come over here with a purpose. I should probably get to class, Zara said, starting to pack up her own lunch. Actually, Chase said, lunch period isn't over for another 15 minutes. Plenty of time to keep talking. And that's when Zara realized she wasn't going to be allowed to just walk away. Zara could feel the weight of everyone's stares as she remained seated at the table. The cafeteria noise had dimmed around them, like someone had turned down the volume on everything except their conversation. She glanced at Riley, who looked like she wanted to disappear into her lunch tray. You know what? Brittany said, sliding into the seat next to Zara without asking. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Let me ask you something else. What kind of music do you listen to? It seemed like an innocent question, but Zara could tell there was a trap coming. She'd learned to recognize the setup from years of these kinds of conversations. All kinds, she answered carefully. All kinds, Chase repeated with a grin. Come on, be specific, I bet I can guess. Probably rap, right? Megan jumped in. That's what most people from Chicago listen to. Most people? Zara asked. You know what she means, Brittany said with a wave of her hand. Urban music, hip-hop, that kind of stuff. There it was. Urban. Another one of those coded words that people used when they wanted to say something else but couldn't say it directly. I listen to everything. Pop, rock, R&B, country, classical. Whatever sounds good. To me. Country? Chase laughed out loud. Seriously? You listen to country music? Why is that funny? It's just unexpected, Megan said, exchanging a look with Brittany. I mean, country music is more of a, our thing. Your thing. She means, it's more traditional American music, Brittany explained like she was talking to a child, the kind of music that really represents our culture here. Zara felt her jaw tighten. Country music is American music, just like hip-hop is American music. They both came from here. Well, technically, Chase said, leaning forward. Hip-hop came from the inner cities. Country music came from rural America, real America. The words real America hit Zara like a punch to the stomach. She'd heard this before, too. The idea that some parts of America were more real than others. That some Americans were more American than others. Chicago is real America, too, she said, her voice getting a little stronger. Is it, though? Brittany asked with that fake sweet smile. I mean, when you think about traditional American values, family values, Christian values, Chicago isn't exactly known for that stuff. Riley was practically shrinking into her seat now. A few students at nearby tables had stopped eating completely and were just watching the conversation unfold. My family has plenty of values, Zara said firmly. Oh, I'm sure they do, Megan said quickly. It's just different, you know? Like, where we come from, families stay together. Parents are married. Kids respect their elders. That whole traditional thing. The implication was clear, and it made Zara's blood start to boil. They were making assumptions about her family, her background, her entire life based on nothing but stereotypes and prejudice. My parents have been married for 20 years, Zara said, her voice steady but with an edge. My dad serves our country, in the military. My mom works 2 jobs to help support our family. We go to church every Sunday, so maybe you should check your assumptions. Whoa, defensive much? Chase said with his hands up in mock surrender. We're just making conversation here. No, you're not, Zara said, finally letting some of her frustration show. You're making assumptions and saying things that are completely out of line. Out of line? Brittany's eyebrows went up. See, this is exactly what we were talking about. The aggression thing. We try to have a friendly conversation, and you immediately get hostile. I'm not being hostile. I'm standing up. For myself. Same thing, really, Megan said with a shrug. In Chicago, maybe that's how people handle disagreements, but here, we try to keep things civil. Civil? Zara could feel her heart pounding now. There's nothing civil about what you're doing. What are we doing exactly? Brittany asked innocently. Having a conversation? Getting to know the new student? Trying to understand where you come from? You're being disrespectful and making assumptions about me based on nothing. Assumptions? Chase laughed. We're going off what you've told us. You're from Chicago. You have that kind of hair. You listen to that kind of music. We're just connecting the dots. That kind of hair? That kind of music? What kind of dots are you connecting exactly? The 3 of them exchanged looks, and Zara could see something shift in their expressions. Like they'd been playing a game up until now, but they were getting ready to stop pretending. Look, Brittany said, her voice losing some of its fake sweetness. We're just trying to figure out what kind of person you are. Whether you're going to fit in here or if you're going to be problematic. Problematic how? Well, some people come from backgrounds where they're used to different standards, Megan said carefully. Different ways of handling conflict, different attitudes about authority. What's that supposed to mean? Chase jumped in. It means some people are raised to think the world owes them something, that they can just demand respect instead of earning it, or that they can play the victim whenever things don't go their way, Brittany added. Zara felt like she'd been slapped. They weren't even trying to hide what they were doing anymore. They were attacking her, her family, her entire identity, and then acting like she was the problem for being upset about it. You don't know anything about me, she said, her voice shaking slightly with anger. We know enough, Megan said with a cold smile. We know you don't really belong here. The cafeteria had gotten noticeably quieter around them. Students at other tables were definitely listening now, some of them holding up their phones. Riley looked like she was about to cry. I belong here as much as anyone else, Zara said, standing up from the table. Do you, though? Brittany stood up too, and suddenly she seemed much taller and more intimidating. Because this is our school, our community, our home. And we have a certain way of doing things here. A certain way of doing things? A peaceful way, Chase said, also standing. A respectful way, without drama, without attitude, without people coming in and trying to change everything to fit their perspective. Zara realized that several other students had gathered around their table now. Some looked uncomfortable, others seemed curious about what was happening. A few looked excited like they were hoping for a fight. I'm not trying to change anything, Zara said. I just want to eat my lunch in peace. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started getting aggressive with us, Megan said loudly, clearly wanting the other students to hear. I wasn't aggressive. You're being aggressive right now, Brittany said, her voice carrying across the cafeteria. Raising your voice, getting in our faces, making everyone uncomfortable. Zara looked around and realized how the situation must look to everyone else. Three students calmly standing around one student who was clearly upset and raising her voice. Without hearing the whole conversation, it probably did look like she was the one causing problems. "This is ridiculous," she said, grabbing her backpack and lunch tray. But as she turned to leave, Chase stepped sideways, blocking her path to the cafeteria exit. "Actually," he said with a smile that wasn't friendly at all, "I think we should finish this conversation first." That's when Zara realized this had been planned all along. They hadn't just randomly decided to come talk to the new girl. They had targeted her specifically, and now they weren't going to let her just walk away. The circle of students around them had grown larger, and some of them were definitely recording now. Zara could see phone screens pointed in her direction, capturing whatever was about to happen next. She took a deep breath and looked each of the three students in the eye. Something had shifted inside her. The nervousness and uncertainty from earlier in the day was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous: calm determination. "You really want to finish this conversation?" she asked quietly. "We really do," Brittany said with confidence. Zara smiled for the first time since they'd approached her table, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Okay then, let's finish it." Zara reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone with deliberate calm. The three students watching her probably thought she was going to call someone or maybe take a picture. They had no idea what was actually about to happen. "You know," she said, her voice steady and clear, "I think you're right. We should definitely finish this conversation." She held up her phone so everyone could see the screen. There, in bright letters, was the word "live" with a little red dot next to it. Below that, a number that was climbing rapidly. 47 viewers, 52 viewers, 61 viewers. "What's that?" Brittany asked, her confident smile faltering slightly. "This? Oh, this is just my social media account. I've been streaming our whole conversation live for the past 10 minutes. The blood drained from Chase's face. "You've been what?" "Recording us," Zara said simply. "Well, not just recording, broadcasting, live, to the internet." Megan grabbed for the phone, but Zara pulled it back smoothly. Don't want to make this worse for yourselves." "Turn it off," Brittany hissed, looking around nervously at all the other students who were now definitely paying attention. "Why would I turn it off? This is just getting interesting." Zara glanced at her screen. "Oh, look, we're up to 127 viewers now, and climbing." She turned the phone toward the camera and spoke directly to her audience. "Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on my first day at Lincoln Valley High School. As you can see, I'm having quite the welcoming experience here." "This is illegal," Chase said desperately. "You can't record people without permission." "Actually," Zara said with a small smile, "we're in a public space at a public school, and you three have been talking loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear anyway. But thanks for your concern about the law." The number of viewers kept climbing. 156, 167, 183. Comments were starting to flood in on the screen. "Who are these? Kids being so rude? Girl, you're handling this perfectly. Is this really happening right now? Someone needs to contact this school." Brittany was getting frantic now. "Turn it off right now or I'll—" "You'll what?" Zara asked calmly. "Make more threats? Say more inappropriate things? Please, go ahead." My viewers seem to be really enjoying this. She held the phone up higher so the camera could capture all three of their faces clearly. "Everyone watching, meet Brittany, Chase, and Megan. They're the welcoming committee here at Lincoln Valley High School." "We weren't doing anything wrong," Megan protested, but her voice was shaky now. "Really? Let's see what my viewers think about that." Zara started reading some of the comments out loud. Someone named Jennifer says, "These kids are disgusting." David wrote, "This is exactly why my daughter switched schools." Oh, and this one's interesting. Someone called Teacher Mom 3117 says, "I'm forwarding this to the school district right now." "Stop reading those," Chase demanded. "Why? Don't you want to know what people think about your behavior? Oh, look, we just hit 250 viewers, and someone just shared the stream on Twitter." Zara turned back to the camera. "So just to catch everyone up who's joining us, these three students approached me during lunch. They started by asking if my hair was real, then moved on to making assumptions about my family, my background, and whether I belong at this school. That's not what happened, Brittany said desperately. Really? Because I have the whole thing recorded. Zara tapped her screen. The beauty of live streaming is that everything gets saved automatically. Every word, every expression, every assumption you made. The crowd of students around them had grown larger. Some were recording with their own phones now, creating multiple angles of the confrontation. Riley had finally found her voice and was quietly explaining to other students what had been happening. You're taking everything out of context, Megan said. Am I? Let me read you some more comments. This viewer says, the girl with the blonde hair needs to check herself. This one says, these kids' parents need to see this. And oh, this is good. Someone just wrote, I'm a local news reporter and I'd like to interview the girl being bullied. News reporter? Chase's voice cracked. Apparently this little welcome wagon of yours is getting some attention beyond just my followers. Zara glanced at her screen again. 384 viewers now. And still climbing. She turned the camera back toward herself and spoke directly to the audience. You know what's really interesting about this situation? These 3 students seem to think they have the right to decide who belongs at their school and who doesn't. They've made assumptions about my family, my background, my character, and my values based on nothing but how I look and where I'm from. We never said any of that, Brittany protested, but her voice sounded weak. Didn't you? Let me think. Zara put her finger to her chin dramatically. You questioned whether my hair was real. You made assumptions about what kind of music I listened to. You suggested that people from Chicago don't have traditional American values. You implied that my family doesn't stay together or respect authority. Should I keep going? The 3 students were looking around desperately now, probably hoping a teacher would show up and end this somehow. But lunch period was far from over, and no adults were in sight. And the best part, Zara continued, is that you did all of this while pretending to be friendly. Like you were just trying to get to know me, but really you were testing me. Trying to see if I would just accept your disrespect quietly. Look, Chase said, his voice much less confident than before. Maybe. We got off on the wrong foot here. We were just trying to... To what? Make me feel unwelcome. Make me question whether I belong here. Make me think twice about standing up for myself. Zara's voice was getting stronger. Because that's exactly what you were doing. She looked at her phone screen. Oh wow, we just passed 500 viewers. And someone just tagged the official Lincoln Valley High School social media account. That's going to be an interesting conversation for your principal. This isn't fair, Megan said, tears starting to form in her eyes. You're making us look bad. I'm not making you look like anything. I'm just showing people who you really are. Zara turned to the camera again. Everyone watching, what do you think? Have these 3 students been treating me fairly? The comments were flying now. This is disgusting behavior. Those kids are bullies. The new girl is handling this like a queen. I'm calling the school right now. My kids will never act like this. Someone needs to show this to their parents. Brittany was getting desperate now. Please, just turn it off. We'll leave you alone, okay? We're sorry. Sorry? Zara raised an eyebrow. You're sorry? For what exactly? For whatever we said that upset you. Whatever you said? Zara looked at the camera and shook her head. Everyone watching, did you hear that? They're sorry for whatever they said that upset me. Not for being disrespectful, not for making assumptions, not for trying to make me feel unwelcome. They're sorry that I got upset about it. She turned back to the 3 students. That's not an apology. That's you being sorry you got caught. What do you want from us? Chase asked desperately. Zara smiled. I want you to understand something. I'm not just some random new girl you can push around. My mom is the new diversity and inclusion coordinator for this entire school district. She starts work here next week. The 3 students' faces went completely white. My dad is Colonel James Washington, stationed at the military base about 20 minutes from here. He's been serving this country for over 20 years. Chase actually took a step backward. And my aunt? She's attorney Lisa Washington. She specializes in civil rights cases, and has been fighting discrimination for 15 years. We didn't know, Brittany whispered. Of course you didn't know. Because you never bothered to actually get to know me. You just made assumptions. Zara looked at her phone. 6:35 viewers now, and I see several people in the comments saying they've shared this with local news stations. She turned the camera toward herself one more time. So everyone watching, thank you for being witnesses to my first day at Lincoln Valley High School. I think it's been pretty educational for everyone involved. The 3 students were backing away now, clearly wanting to escape the situation they'd created. But Zara wasn't done with them yet. Oh, and one more thing. She called out loud enough for the whole cafeteria to hear. The next time you want to test someone to see if they'll stand up for themselves, you might want to make sure you're ready for the answer. Within 3 minutes of Zara's final statement, the cafeteria doors burst open and Principal Martinez rushed in, followed closely by 2 other administrators. Behind them walked a tall woman in a business suit who Zara immediately recognized as her mother. What's going on here? Principal Martinez asked, looking around at the crowd of students with their phones still recording. Zara held up her phone, still streaming live. We're just finishing up a very educational conversation, Principal Martinez. I'd like you to meet my mom, Dr. Patricia Washington, your new Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator. The principal's eyes went wide as he looked between Zara and her mother. Mrs. Washington, your daughter is the new student who was supposed to have a smooth first day, Dr. Washington said calmly, but there was steel in her voice. Instead, she's been subjected to harassment and discrimination that's now been witnessed by over 800 people online. Brittany, Chase, and Megan were standing frozen like deer in headlights. Other students in the cafeteria were whispering excitedly, some still recording, others frantically texting their friends about what they'd just witnessed. There seems to be some kind of misunderstanding, Principal Martinez said nervously. No misunderstanding, Zara said, showing him her phone screen. Everything that happened is recorded. Every word, every assumption, every attempt to make me feel unwelcome at this school. Dr. Washington stepped forward. Principal Martinez, I think we need to have an immediate meeting. My daughter, these 3 students, their parents, and the relevant staff members. Of course, he said quickly. Right away. Zara looked at her phone one more time. The viewer count had reached 1,247 and was still climbing. Comments were flooding in faster than she could read them. This is going viral. Justice for the new girl. Those bullies got what they deserved. I hope their parents see this. This girl is my hero. She addressed her audience one final time. Everyone who watched this, thank you for being witnesses. Thank you for showing that when people stand together, bullying doesn't win. I'm going to end the stream now, but I want you all to remember something. When you see someone being treated unfairly, don't just watch. Speak up. Be a witness. Be an ally. As she ended the stream, Zara noticed that Riley had moved closer and was standing beside her. I'm sorry I didn't say anything earlier, Riley whispered. I should have stood up for you. It's okay, Zara replied. You were scared. I understand that. No, it's not okay. What they did was wrong, and I knew it was wrong, but I was afraid they'd turn on me next. Several other students had gathered around them now, and many were nodding in agreement with Riley. We all knew, said a boy Zara recognized from her history class. Everyone knows how those 3 treat people who are different, but nobody ever calls them out because their families have money and influence. Not anymore, said another student holding up her phone. I recorded the whole thing too, and I already sent it to my mom who's on the school board. Principal Martinez clapped his hands loudly. All right, everyone, lunch period is over. Please head to your next classes. We'll handle this situation appropriately. But, as students started to leave, many of them stopped to speak with Zara. You're amazing, one girl said. I wish I had your courage. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen, another student added. You totally destroyed them without even raising your voice. My older sister goes to college with your cousin, said a boy with glasses. She's going to flip when she sees this video. Even some of the athletes who had been sitting across the cafeteria came over. Hey, I just want you to know not everyone here is like those 3, said a tall girl with a basketball jersey. Some of us were getting ready to step in if things got physical. Thanks, Zara said. That means a lot. As the cafeteria emptied, Brittany, Chase, and Megan were left standing awkwardly near the administrative staff. Their earlier confidence had completely evaporated, replaced by obvious panic about the consequences they were facing. "Mrs. Washington," Brittany said desperately, "we really didn't mean anything by what we said. We were just trying to be friendly." "Dr." Washington looked at her calmly. "I watched the last few minutes of my daughter's stream. I heard exactly what you said and how you said it." "It was taken out of context," Chase protested weakly. "The context was that you approached a new student and immediately began questioning her appearance, making assumptions about her background, and suggesting she didn't belong here," Dr. Washington replied. "What context makes that acceptable?" Megan was crying now. "Our parents are going to kill us. This is going to ruin everything. You should have thought about that before you decided to target my daughter," Dr. Washington said firmly. Principal Martinez was frantically typing on his phone, probably trying to do damage control before the story spread even further. But Zara could see students all around the school on their phones sharing and commenting on videos of what had happened. "Principal Martinez," Dr. Washington continued, "I think we need to discuss what kind of culture exists at this school that made these students feel comfortable behaving this way." "Absolutely," he said quickly. "We take these matters very seriously." "Do you?" "Because from what I observed, this kind of behavior seems to have been tolerated for quite some time." Riley stepped forward nervously. "Mrs. Washington, if it helps, I've seen them do this to other students before. Not exactly the same, but similar things, making people feel like they don't fit in." "Thank you for speaking up," Dr. Washington said kindly. "That kind of honesty is exactly what we need." Over the next hour, news of the incident spread throughout the school and beyond. Parents started calling the school office after seeing the video online. Local news stations began reaching out for interviews. The school district's social media pages were flooded with comments about the incident. By the end of the school day, Brittany, Chase, and Megan had been suspended pending a full investigation. Their parents had been called in for emergency meetings. The school board had scheduled a special session to review policies about harassment and discrimination. But the most important change was in the students themselves. As Zara walked to her locker at the end of the day, she was surrounded by classmates who wanted to talk to her, support her, and share their own experiences. "You did something really important today," said a quiet girl who introduced herself as Alex. "You showed everyone that we don't have to just accept being treated badly." "My little brother is starting here next year," said another student. "I'm really glad you stood up for yourself, because now maybe he won't have to deal with this kind of stuff." Even some students who had been friends with Brittany's group approached Zara. "We never realized how bad their behavior really was until we saw it from the outside," one of them admitted. "Watching that video made us really think about times we didn't speak up when we should have." As Zara gathered her books, she felt her phone buzzing with notifications. The video clips from the cafeteria were being shared across multiple social media platforms. News outlets were picking up the story. Anti-bullying organizations were reaching out to her. But the message that meant the most came from her dad. "Proud of you, kiddo. You handled that like a true Washington. Courage, dignity, and strength. Can't wait to hear the whole story tonight." Riley appeared at her locker. "Hey, do you want to sit together at lunch tomorrow? I mean, if you're still willing to be friends with someone who didn't have your back today." "Of course," Zara smiled. "Everyone deserves a chance to do better." As they walked out of school together, Riley asked, "Do you think things will really change here?" Zara looked around at the students who were still coming up to her, still talking about what had happened, still sharing their own stories about times they'd been made to feel different or unwelcome. "Yeah," she said confidently. "I think they already are." 3 months later, Lincoln Valley High School implemented a comprehensive anti-bullying program that became a model for other schools in the district. Zara was invited to speak at assemblies about standing up to discrimination. And the 3 students who had targeted her? They completed extensive community service and diversity training, eventually becoming some of the school's most effective advocates for inclusion. Sometimes, Zara realized, the best way to change a place isn't to fit in quietly. Sometimes you have to stand up loudly and show everyone what real strength looks like.